physicians, what should that next step be? All right, we've gone on with this. I have a medical issue. It took about 3 years to determine what the issue was. But I didn't stop, nor did my physicians. I had a fabulous team working with me and for me and on my behalf. But I had to ask the questions. All right, this wasn't it. I'm still suffering. There are still issues. I'm still in danger. What do we do with this next? And we need to continually be going to the physician who will recommend the next right step for us.
Great point. And you must take an active, not a passive approach to your medical health. I mean, obviously, these doctors are doing the best they can. They really are. It's just one of those things that, in light of some other disease types, for some reason, and probably because in terms of our society here in the United States, lupus is still considered a relatively newer science compared to some other disease types. It's really only been significantly treated in the last 60 to 70 years or so, which, believe it or not, is still considered relatively new compared to other disease types, and so it does not have nearly the recognition, the awareness, or the exposure, not only from the lay public, but in the medical communities and in medical schools, like we think it should be, or like some other disease types do. So you make a great point that it's through not necessarily the fault of the doctor. We, though, need to help those folks along as patients to say, boy, whatever you're treating me, whatever those opportunities you're giving me to help this current pain or trauma or what have you, it's not doing the trick completely. I'm not feeling that much better for the long period of time that I was hoping for. So perhaps you could consider lupus, which is a complex disease where the cause is unknown. At this point, there are, what we have been able to identify through talking with different rheumatologists, over 2 million people in the United States that have been diagnosed from lupus, most of whom are women. However, it does cross all boundaries in terms of male, female, all different types of races, and there really is no one more or less group that it's affected by. Anyone can have it, again, not to be contracted, but you either are born with it or you're not. It's just a matter of, is there a trigger that will cause this to come to the surface, either literally on your skin or internally within pain in your organs or joints, and then can we identify what it is, get this knowledge to our doctor, and hopefully have him treat it for us.
Well, in part, you answered what I was about to ask you, is there a typical lupus patient? The answer is no. However, it is more prevalent among women than among men, but we still don't know why. I had always thought that, like fibromyalgia, I had always pictured that as lupus as something that primarily hits women in their 40s-ish and beyond. However, one of my babysitters in her 20s has lupus. So that just knocked that theory all the way into kingdom come. So again, like you said, you're born with this or you're not. There are no tests, though, to determine when you're born. There's no blood test to say if you have lupus then. It's not until it actualizes, right?
That's a great point. Oftentimes, and of course every case is different. As I said before, it's really a snowflake disease, but oftentimes a person is diagnosed with lupus after the age of 18, and more than likely before the age of 40, although that isn't the case in everyone. It does affect women more often than men. However, if for men that are diagnosed with lupus, unfortunately, it hits them much, much harder, typically. And it really takes a toll on men with this disease. So, but you just never know sometimes. And yet, again, for us as an organization to bring about more awareness, because I've had people just recently, in fact, come to me and say, oh, well, I think I've heard about lupus. That's something that you can get, right? You can contract that like other disease types. Is that something like Lyme disease, where I could be out in the woods and get it from a tick or something? And it's certainly not the case. It doesn't make it necessarily any better or worse for us all, but because it does exist out there. But it's a
tiny
reality.
Bit of understanding.
It is. And it's something that we as an organization are really trying to overcome, is that exposure level, that awareness level. And that's why just talking with you this morning is so important to us and so valuable. Just getting the word out there that, number one, this is a serious disease type. It's something that if people can learn more about it at an earlier stage in their life and at least have it on the radar of both themselves and their doctors, perhaps if they are diagnosed with it, they can be treated sooner. But secondly, just to raise that awareness, because we exist as an organization primarily to provide education for those folks that have it, because we are a working resource located in the state of Michigan. We are the only nonprofit organization that treats lupus patients, fibromyalgia patients, and folks suffering with chronic pain and autoimmune diseases that is located in the state of Michigan, the only one. So we exist as a staff of 5 every business day, and most often weekends and long nights too, to be a resource for people to answer questions and to educate. We also provide, as I mentioned before, 15 different locations throughout Michigan and northern Indiana, monthly support groups, 6 of which are located right here within the Metro Detroit area. So that's a nice resource for folks that are suffering with the disease to attend these support group meetings along with spouses or friends who also, it's very, very difficult for them to adjust to deal, working and dealing with someone with a life, of a person that has lupus. It's not an easy thing for even spouses and friends to deal with it. It's really devastating. So we offer this the support group mechanism to help people cope. But then also we are we have this opportunity to raise awareness and to fundraise, because in our mission statement and in our strategic plan, our board of directors and us as a working staff, we have recognized a need to raise research dollars to send to Washington, D.C., to send to the National Institutes of Health, to hope that we can find a cure for this disease. In fact, through our efforts and the efforts of other nonprofit lupus-based organizations, it was just earlier this year, in January, that the first FDA-approved drug was put on the market, the very first, to specifically fight against symptoms of lupus, which is really groundbreaking for our community.
That's beyond groundbreaking. That is huge. We're going to talk more about medical treatment options. I'd like to give your website before we pause for a moment, and that website is, please?
milupus.org.
So easy. milupus.org. I'll be back in just a moment with Frank Mortl III, and we are talking about lupus. The Lupus Alliance of America, Michigan, and Indiana affiliate is who Frank is representing, but we're really here for all lupus patients, regardless of where they hail. And we'll be back in a moment with some more information about lupus, about where you can get information, support, and how you can help. Once again, I'm Elisa Z. You're listening to the Sunday Edition.
Michigan Perspective Sunday Edition is a public service of 97.1 The Ticket.
Good morning, I'm Elisa Z. You're listening to the Sunday Edition. I am still here this morning with Frank Mortl III, the Executive Director of Lupus Alliance of America, Michigan and Indiana affiliates. Thank you so much for spending your morning with me.
Thank you, Elisa. I appreciate being here.
We've been talking about lupus, what it is, how we can find out that we have it, and it crosses such a spectrum, Frank, and that's part of the difficulty, I think, sometimes.